in opera particularly, in the Royal Albert Hall. So the first half of this marvellous and exuberant concert comes to its close. In the interval, we'll see a short film about the work of the British Red Cross. Before that, we're going backstage for a moment.
Amici, thank you very much to be with us for 125th anniversary of the Red Cross. Thank you very, very much. Grazie.
Over the bank holiday weekend leading up to this Royal Albert Hall concert, tens of thousands of people have been thronging Hyde Park to commemorate and celebrate VE Day 50 years ago. And there in the forest of pavilions, they've found the British Red Cross, celebrating its birthday. Wherever there is starvation and suffering overseas, the Red Cross is there. It's there in emergencies and national tragedies at home.
Don't move her, she's got spinal injuries.
It's there in the simple, vital work of caring in the community. That Red Cross on the white background is the symbol of help for everyone.
Even war had its humane side, and the recognized symbol of humanity in war is the Red Cross. This film will tell you something of the organization which works under that symbol, the Red Cross in action.
It was born out of war. The Battle of Solferino in 1859 killed more than 40,000 Austrian and French soldiers in a day. Many more were terribly injured. The Swiss humanitarian Henri Dunant wrote a vivid and moving account of the suffering he'd seen. And when it was published, it led to an international congress in 1864. That, in turn, laid the foundations for the international Red Cross movement. Then, in 1870, just after the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War, a British Army colonel, Robert Lloyd Lindsay, who'd previously seen the horrors of the Crimea, wrote to the Times announcing that he'd given £1,000 to the society. That gesture led to £40,000 being raised, a huge sum in those days. It was the start of the British Red Cross.
For me, the Red Cross is, apart from being the biggest humanitarian organisation in the world, is an organisation that is always there when you need it. It's an organisation that gets to places that other people can't. And you can trust the Red Cross.
In wartime, the Red Cross is there to aid the wounded and look after the prisoners of war on both sides. It knows no frontiers.
And its overseas work is essential now as before. In the former Yugoslavia, it's been distributing medical and food supplies to all sides, often in the most dreadful conditions. In Rwanda, the Red Cross is working now to help 2 million refugees, sending relief workers, food, doctors, nurses to their vast camps. It works in many ways. When something we take for granted disappears, like normal channels of communication, the Red Cross offers a tracing and message service. That lifeline uses every resource to find and bring together relatives who've been separated by war, by political upheaval, by disaster.
Red Cross, the British Red Cross.
In this country, our role is to officially to back up the military medical services in a time of war, and then to become involved in the community by developing services and assist at major events. We use volunteers for the majority of our work. And of course, you can't have volunteers trained and sitting around waiting for the big event. We were at the major disasters, Lockerbie, at Zeebrugge, Clapham rail disaster, and so on. But in between times, we try and develop the skills of those volunteers so that they can use those skills in the community, working with the most vulnerable.
Day to day, the Red Cross has always provided a range of community care programs. Today, the Transport and Escort Service helps people who find it difficult to travel alone to make their essential journeys with competent assistance. The Society runs disabled living centres like this one in Warrington.
So I was looking at getting two in like...
Portable.
The centre's also a depot for the local medical loan service, which provides equipment for people who have to cope at home with disability or with sickness. Sue Rainford Miller, a coordinator for the Red Cross Home from Hospital scheme.
There are 16 Red Cross Home from Hospital services nationwide. Our service in Warrington commenced in November 1993. Since then, we've grown to 35 trained volunteers covering all wards in the hospital. Hello, Brian. I'm Sue from the Red Cross Home from Hospital service. I've come to tell you a little bit more about the service now. I've had a chat with the ward staff and they say that they think you might benefit from help from one of our volunteers. Our service provides practical help and emotional support in that difficult transitional period between being in hospital and returning home. Check and see how you're getting along.
The Red Cross, of course, trains many of its volunteers in first aid, and they can pass on their skills to others, so that people feel more confident when they're offering assistance to those who need it. The Red Cross trains thousands of people every year, like this Southport lifeboat crew.
Okay, come on. Speak to me. What's your name? All right.
Red Cross Youth involves young people from 5 to 25.
The badge of the Junior Red Cross stands for three things. It stands for the care of the sick and suffering. It stands for helping people to keep healthy. It stands for friendship for children of all nations.
This is Jim Baines, who's a Red Cross youth organiser in Newcastle upon Tyne.
Well, when I first turned into the estate, the first thing that I noticed was the two people attempting to break the glass in the telephone box. And I thought, oh my God, I've come into a war zone.
We used to get up to all sorts. Criminal damage, theft, drugs, drinking. Mainly just destroying other people's property.
We just used to be in trouble all constantly. We just used to hang around on the streets, and what trouble we could find, we'd get into it.
Anything so I wasn't bored, you know what I mean? So I had something to do.
Red Cross Youth gives an opportunity to young people to work together, to develop skills, to find self-confidence, to find new values. It shows them that they can do things for others and for themselves.
I know I've got an aim. I know I've got to do something with my life now. Instead of just wasting it, doing nothing and skipping school and stuff like that.
It's a good feeling when you jump off the waterfall. Better high than drugs, any of the drugs I've took there. Gives you more confidence. Then I feel I can do something, do you know what I mean? And be somebody.
The Red Cross gets no money from government. It's sustained by voluntary donations. Even old clothes given to a Red Cross shop can help to keep essential humanitarian work going. But it urgently needs money and volunteers. For 125 years, the British Red Cross has fought against suffering with its weapons of humanity and simple care. Volunteers ready to support the emergency services. 90,000 skilled pairs of hands able to help in a crisis on any scale. Ready to bring comfort and relief where there's shock, where there's fear and distress. Bringing help to those who otherwise would have none.
I certainly recommend to be more sensitive to the Red Cross. I have done myself many free concerts in favor of the Red Cross in these 34 years of my profession. And I am very happy and very proud of that. And I think that everybody should really help more.
Welcome back to the Royal Albert Hall for tonight's Gala concert starring Luciano Pavarotti, which begins as the first half ended with Verdi. Pavarotti himself is going to sing the great tenor aria from Macbeth. Now, it's not an opera in which the tenor is the star, he's the lesser figure of Macduff. Macbeth himself is the baritone. Verdi, of course, was intoxicated by Shakespeare. His last two operatic masterpieces were Otello and Falstaff, and he even wanted to turn King Lear into an opera. Macbeth came fairly early in his career, and he said at the time that it was a tragedy that was one of the great creations of man. And in the aria that Luciano Pavarotti will sing,